And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Pattison Ave Phanatics show. I'm your host, James Squizzer, filling in for Tom Kelly once again this week. With me, as always, is hopefully some more group of companions on this Saturday morning of must watch sports. Joey Marks, what's going on, brother?
Good morning, Philadelphia. Happy Saturday, and I hope all was safe and well for your 4th of July.
Yep, same here. Happy belated 4th of July if anybody had the joy to spend time with family and friends. Hopefully, we'll have Damon and Frank on today as the show rolls on, but got a lot to get to. I guess we could talk some Philly sports talk. I guess we could talk some Phillies talk alongside the Flyers, Eagles, and Sixers free agency and much more along the way. But Joey, where do we begin?
Well, we're gonna start with your Philadelphia 76ers, and there's been some interesting occurrences that have happened, and I definitely want to get your take on this, James.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of guys that have gone to free agency and they left. We've lost more bodies than gained.
Right.
Um, we've gained some potential depth, but I kind of question some of the moves
Hmm.
and maybe some of the patience. And so this is where I'll
Right.
start. Let's break down some of the departures. Jaden McDaniels gone. Uh, Shake Milton gone.
Right.
Uh, who else was Oh, George Niang gone.
Hmm.
These are guys, especially George Niang. I think George Niang is the biggest loss out of all of them because
Yeah.
George gave us quality 3-point shooting, especially when there wasn't a lot going on in the game. Um, when you talk about a guy who's just a pure shooter, you can really kind of go to George Niang. He's a specialist in that way. So I will go to you, James. Um, Out of the three that departed, who do you think the Sixers are going to miss more? George Niang, Jaden McDaniels, or Shake Milton?
Well, it's a good question. I think the one thing I am gonna miss the most is George Niang's 3 point shot because he was like very well clutch and much needed moments, and especially Kate Scott's catchphrase "Bang bang George Niang." Now you gotta find another guy to find that role who's gonna do those kind of things. Maybe Patrick Beverly, maybe like Beverly Hills like 3 pointer or something like that. Like, something, something like I know she'll find some more catchphrases, which is by the way to have that in the business. But yeah, I think the Yang's probably the one thing I take out of it. That is
Gonna do
probably
an
gonna be
Axel Foley Beverly Hills Cop theme song whenever Beverly hits like a 3-point shot. Like,
yeah, real, yeah, right,
Okay, so
right. Yeah, I got to go with the Yang
some
though.
yeah, I mean, look, Shake was a quality and loyal soldier for for the Sixers for a while.
Right.
Um, Jaden McDaniels, I liked him, and I expressed that when we first got him.
Hmm.
Mainly because him and his brother have this very long athletic build that kind of plays well for an athletic winger, but also for a very lengthy defender. I'm not saying Jaden was like a great defender by any means, but sometimes it's better to have a little bit of length on defense. That way, you're able to make when there's transition offense by your opposing team, you're able to get back on defense a little bit more steadily.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
so
think the
let's
one thing I
go.
take out of it.
Good.
I'm sorry, I don't mean
Go
to interrupt you, but I
go
know
ahead.
we're trying to segue. Yeah, but the thing with McDaniel's is that I didn't see much of his stats, but everybody told me it was a great signing that they had. I think the big thing I take out of it too is that like the players that you will bring in. I think last night like there's another player that came back from the free agency. I think Montrezl Harrell signed signed a 1 year deal. I think yesterday afternoon or something like that. So yeah, but overall I think there's a couple pieces that are going to be missed on this Sixers team, and I agree with that 100%.
So let's go to some of the pieces that Daryl Morey added.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple names that, like you just mentioned about Montrezl Harrell. You also mentioned about Patrick Beverly. Patrick Beverly, and then the third one is Mo Bamba, and I'll get to Mo in a
Right.
minute.
Good morning. Good
So
morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
good
Don't mean
morning,
to change the
Damon.
subject. Damon's officially joined us. What's going on, buddy?
Good morning. Sorry I'm late, man. I got your text. I was literally en route to the other spot, but
It's all good.
Yeah,
No worries.
yeah,
It's all
we
good.
had to call late audible, due
Yeah.
to
and I would have
un-
been on time. I would have been on time. I was en route.
yeah. We're not gonna blame you, believe me.
All
There's
right.
plenty of there's someone else at fault there.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're talking about, Dame, is some of the moves that the Sixers have made, both with losing some players and gaining some free agents. So I'll ask you the question we just responded to. We've lost Shake Milton, George Niang, and Jaden McDaniels. Out of those
Mhm.
guys, who do you think is the most valuable piece to have lost?
Wow. I like all three. Let me start with Shake. I think Shake may have run his course here. Maybe time for him to move on for better opportunity. Although we have a different coaching system coming in. Niang, who I liked, but you couldn't play him in certain places, particularly against Boston. Although he held his own, but when he wasn't hitting his shot, we know he lacks in defense. So um, McDaniel's the one. It's interesting because I thought they liked the kid and he's athletic. He showed some promise when he was with us. That would probably be the only one. But on the flip side, I do like the sign of Pat Beverly, and I do like the sign of Mo Bamba. Although I found out he needs to be pushed a little bit as far as his dedication to the game. But maybe in a role of backup to Embiid, and he can stretch. And the
Well, we'll
nursing
get
and Nick Nurse's system, we might see. But yeah, and people are upset about Montrez. Listen, Montrez can score. Again, I think Nick Nurse helped make these decisions. I don't have a problem with it at all. The people are upset because Sixers didn't sign, Jerry Stackhouse last week. I mean, it's like you can't sign everybody, and then they have to fit what you need. And right now, they're
Jerry
standing pat
Jerry
on some other stuff.
Jerry Stackhouse. I'm waiting for Dana Barrows to be mentioned, or
Yeah,
Hersey
Dana.
Hawkins.
I mean, yeah, it's every day. It's a concept, but
So,
yeah,
but this is the thing that I will say, and I'm glad you brought up Mo Bamba, and I was going to touch on that real quick.
mm,
One thing that people may not know about Mo Bamba and his journey to the NBA
mm,
is Embiid played an integral role in him getting into the NBA.
okay.
Bamba, just like Siakam, was a guy, and I'm not recalling the other one. Ibaka,
Or
Sergio
Serge
Ibaka,
Ibaka.
Serge
Serge
Ibaka.
Serge
Ibaka.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ibaka.
Mm,
So all these guys came from Africa, and one Ibaka kind of helped Embiid get here. Embiid kind of helped Siakam get here, and then in turn, Embiid also helped kind of Mo Bamba get here. So
okay.
the idea of his lack of motivation, I think it's not just a Nick Nurse thing. I think it's a matter of, having that country, that person, your mentor, so to speak, that's
Mm-hmm,
that's right there by your side, that's
mm-hmm,
coaching you up from the sidelines when you take over for him. Um, I think it's actually a really good pickup.
Mhm.
Outside of the whole, and we had talked about this in previous shows about like a person like Pascal Siakam,
yeah.
and the possibility of Nick Nurse bringing in Pascal Siakam. I would not be entirely surprised. I was not entirely surprised of the Mo Bamba move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't mean to change the subject again, Joe. We have another guest. Frank Finnegan joins us on the show.
Frank,
Frank,
Good
what's going
morning.
on, brother?
Good morning,
good
fellas. I found
morning.
a pair of headphones.
Good morning.
Yeah,
You
man.
didn't
How you
steal them
doing?
from me. You didn't steal them from any children, did you?
Nah, just my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Okay.
my wife.
Yeah.
But
So
Frank, we were talking about some of the departures and some of the acquisitions of the 76ers. Who are you going to miss out of George Niang, Jaden McDaniels, and Shake Milton?
out of all of them, I'll probably miss Shake the most because he did give us some offense. The only problem is he got a little ball hoggy once in a while, but he's a capable player. You know, Shake's a capable player. I'm not going to miss Bang Bang a little bit, not even a little bit.
Oh,
Not gonna
wow.
miss the minivan.
No, not going to miss him. Not going to miss him at all. Not going to miss him.
See,
Really?
I disagree with you guys because I like George Niang because he openly said on Friday night games when they were in Philly, he would go and get a case of Michelob Light or something like that, like a case of beer after the game, especially if he would buy beer as well as he did on in the game. So if he scored 10, he get 2 cases. If he scored 20, he get 3 cases. But he was always going to at least get 1 case. And I'm like, I like his logic. I really do.
Joe, there's a lot of people in the world I don't like that buy beer.
I guess that's a good point. But so out of the acquisitions that Maury has made with Mo Bamba, Patrick Beverly, and Montrezl Harrell, which one are you most excited to make a difference or big splash in with the Sixers?
I don't think any of them are splash guys. You know, they're pieces. You know, you had to replace the guys you had. Are they marginally better than what they had? Yeah. Patrick Beverly's better. You know, they're marginally better with their backups. I don't think that's the last move you're going to see, though.
Well, I would agree with that. And honestly, a lot of people are being really hard on Daryl Morey for these moves because they feel like it's lackluster. And I'm not on that train yet because I feel like there's a bigger picture perspective down the road. And so
Lost my camera, but I'm still here.
yeah. So one of the questions I have for you guys, Nick Nurse has been the Sixers started their summer league. Nick Nurse, it's usually the summer league is coached by an assistant coach to kind of give them a little bit of head coaching experience. But Nick Nurse decided, nah, I want to do this for me. I'm still hungry. Now Nick Nurse came from the G League, formerly the D League, and he was a coach there and made his way up. Now, think about this. Nick Nurse went from that level all the way to a NBA champion. So this guy in a new city decided I'm going to be the summer league coach because I need to get to know what I have in the pipeline. So I'll start with you, Dame. What are your thoughts about Nick Nurse playing head coach for the summer league?
I like it. I like it a lot. I was just talking to a friend of mine and wondering if he was the first coach to do it. I'm not sure. And someone mentioned Nate McMillan, but I don't know if he was still an assistant at the time. But regardless of the fact, I like it for a number of reasons. One, he's coming in and he said it himself. I want to implement my style of play or my system with the team. Now we know more than half of those guys will not be on the roster. We understand that. But what it does is it gives them some tape to share with the other guys. And what I saw, I'm going to actually watch today. I know the Phillies come on at 3:30, and then the Sixers Summer League plays the Knicks at 5, so I'm going to tune in again. But what I did see was a lot of movement, both defensively and offensively. Ball kept moving. It didn't stick. And I know I watched the Utah game. They were down 14. They came back and won that game. I missed the OKC game where Zaire Smith had 16. But
he's still playing?
Yeah, he's on
He's
OKC.
Still in a league? Wait. He's still in an organized basketball league? Whoa.
Yeah, he got back in. Yeah. Well, I mean, in all fairness, Joe, I know people. It's not his fault. Hold up.
No. He's the poor man's Mikal Bridges. That boy is a fraud.
You can't get on him.
It's not his fault.
For the Sixers and Frank's uncle Brett Brown making the move.
Now Frank's uncle.
Yeah.
Dang, come on, man.
Yeah. So you can't get. But the other thing was he had
Don't cross no streets without looking, dude. Don't cross no streets without looking.
I miss you, Frank. He had a bad peanut allergy, and so I commend him for coming back. But Irregardless, I like the fact that Nurse is like, look, what he's doing is this, Joe. He's letting everybody know my way or no way. And I'm going to
Yeah,
start.
I
in the
like
summer.
I like that he's doing it, and I mean, like, he doesn't have to do it. And I mean, how many of those guys on that team are going to wind up being on the final roster? Maybe one, maybe two. But what he's doing is he's getting a feel, at least for those young guys. And, some of them are going to wind up in Delaware on the Blue Coats. And they're going to have his impression, And you're right. There's going to be film for showing the other guys, this is the way I want to run it. But he's going grassroots.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many head coaches in the NBA do that? They don't, he's going grassroots, and he's going, okay, if I'm going to win with this squad, I have to set that fundamental basis early.
Yeah.
And if I have to call a guy up, I don't have to worry about whether he knows my system or not, because he's already played it. So I mean, that's what I think he's doing, and it's a smart move. I mean, this is why they hired Nick Nurse, because Nick's a smart dude. He's a smart guy.
Before I get to James, the one thing I wanted to add to that, Frank, is that look at like the prototype that the Miami Heat have kind of set as kind of like a blueprint. 7 of their 15, active players were undrafted free agents. In that summer league team, 8 or 9 out of that starting the active 12-man roster are undrafted free agents. I think Nick Nurse isn't a dumb guy to think, if I can kind of get the best out of these guys that we're completely given up on. I look at what Spoelstra did with some of those guys in Miami. If I can kind of replicate a little bit of that, not all of it,
I don't think
100%.
it's so much that, Joe. I don't think it's so much that. It's the fact that the Sixers went into the draft with no picks.
Right, and now you have to figure out.
This is necessity.
Right,
He's got this is necessity.
I don't disagree with that. It's necessity because of the circumstances that they're in. But
Right.
I feel like Nick Nurse has to make the best of the circumstances he's given. And the circumstances that you're given, especially with the example in Miami, you at least know, okay, undrafted free agents aren't just prospects. They're not just guys anymore. Miami has proven that that's not always the case. You can get like a Nick Vincent. You can get guys like a Strauss. You can get guys that, want to cut their teeth and prove that everyone else was wrong. And you got to imagine the Sixers in their standing, they're actually on a better platform because they can't say we passed you over. They didn't have a pick to pass you over with. Everybody else passed you over. We took you because we believed. Even after the draft, we took you because we believed. Some of those guys in Miami probably passed them over once or twice. But they still drafted them.
I don't believe they think about that. They only think about the zeros and the commas.
Well, I don't disagree. And some of those guys are going to save you some zeros and commas.
That's true.
So I feel like that's gonna be a very helpful thing. James, if people want to not injure themselves when thinking about the James Harden situation, what lawyer may they call?
Yeah, it's David Archeri Esquire. He's the man of the hour. Also, the man if James Harden wants to sue for compensation or a motor vehicle accident, personal injury, or criminal law, or taking money from the Sixers for any particular reason, call him at 610-565-0300. That's www.cherryinjurylaw.com. And tell them that the boys over at Pattison Ave EOP, and who knows, James Harden sent you.
And I will say, as a nice PSA, I just had a conversation with Mr. Cherry. He was helping me out with a personal matter.
I've had conversations with him too. He's a good dude.
And he is a straight shooter, and he's a kind gentleman. And so
yes,
if you want a guy who's going to shoot you straight and not rip you off like most lawyers, David Archeri is the man to go to.
Yeah, I've
Now,
had conversations with him too. He's a good man. Good man. He's a good man.
yeah, very good man. So I'm going to go to the elephant in the room. James, the beard, the fraud, the thief, the new the new
Jimmy
Cutler
Hoffa.
of, well, he might be buried on some bridge in Philly sometime soon. But anyhow, one of the things to kind of ask. So he took his player option with the caveat that he wants to be traded. Now the rumors have been floating around this week that the Sixers may not even trade him. So I have to ask, Dame, what in your mind, what's the likelihood that James Harden gets traded?
I still think it's 80-20. I know he was, at the all-white party that Ruben had thrown, and he took pictures with Embiid and Tobias and stuff like that. Listen, the way I'm looking
By the
at
way,
it,
I'm starting a new trend. I'm going to do the all-blue party.
the all-blue party.
Yeah.
Why blue?
You got $2
Blue's
million
my favorite
to kick
color,
this off?
damn it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. There we go.
You got $2 million to kick it off?
No, but I'll start
That's what
with a
Ruben
block
spent.
party. I'll start with a block party on my street and kind of go from there, and I'll do all the cooking.
Yeah,
You think we can get Embiid to come for hot dogs and beer?
Yeah, he doesn't drink.
Yo. I'm not
Look,
low
That those are
class.
Sherry
I'm not,
Temples.
Joe, if you set up a stripper pole, we can get Harden.
my brother's ex-wife is a stripper. That can be arranged.
Ooh.
Okay, all right, good. It's good to have family connections.
I'll ask you later what
Wonderful.
club she worked at. Let me stop. So listen.
Anyhow,
Off the rail.
we blew up the rails this morning, folks.
We did. Here's the thing with
Those
this,
rails
Joe.
are completely off.
And Frank touched upon it a couple weeks ago. The good thing about it is this, and everyone wants to get on Morey, but in fact, if you look at it and just take a seat back, Morey's cleaning up some stuff that Colangelo left over.
Yeah.
So you have Tobias's money coming off the books. You're going to have Harden's money coming off the books. That's why I don't want to touch Levine. You get a clear slate. So what you do, it's actually a really good move. You keep if you keep the team intact, let's say Harden hypothetically buys in. What do you have to lose? You have a new coach. Nick Nurse may get them over the hump. Now, let's say, in fact, he gets them over the hump. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but we don't go to the championship. But now that money comes off the books. You can decide which way you want to go, and then you're going to attract more people irregardless. So what he's doing is saying, look, I'm okay with running it back. I'm not just going to give Harden away because once I trade him, I'm going to get something in return that's going to benefit the team. And that's what he's looking at, the team. And on the other hand, come next year, which is going to be a better free agent market, then people won't be complaining. They'll have that money to work with. So I'm like, listen, if you have to be patient with it, be patient with it.
Well, Dame, leaning in on that, I think Morey did something else. Morey was smart enough to know what the market would bear for Harden. And if you remember 6 weeks ago, everybody was talking 4 years max deal, $50 million a year. We're going to be stuck with this guy's contract until he's 47, And Morey just told him, I'll tell you what, why don't you go out on the market, see what you can get?
Yep.
And you know what happened? He turned around and signed his option.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't get what he wanted anywhere.
No.
Nobody was going to pay him that money.
And that has a lot to do with his agent too, right, Frank? Because he probably called before he signed that option.
I don't think,
and got and asked his agent, okay, who's calling for me? And when the agent said nobody, he's like, all right, I'll just sign this.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's the agent. I think it's Morey knowing that there wasn't anywhere for him to go, not for that money. And I mean, really, there are only a couple of teams that were even showing any kind of interest in him. And Houston bailed out quick.
Yeah.
So who you got left? You got the Clippers.
You got the Clippers
You
and the
know,
Knicks.
Well,
right?
there'll always be someone, because what can happen is, and by the way, he's going to
Not
actually
for
wind
that
up
money though. Not for that money, Dame.
well. But here's the thing: he's actually going to wind up making $40 million because the Sixers have to pay an additional $5 million. But
Right. But it ain't
so,
50, and
so
it ain't
what
for
could
4 years.
right? But what could happen is, let's say a team goes, you know what? I'll take a chance on Harden for this 1 year.
Right.
We'll pay the 40, and we'll give the Sixers, a player or two, or first, whatever the case may be, and then it doesn't work, but they have nothing to lose because they may have some money coming back as well. You're not wrong what you're saying, but what I'm saying is this: he's still a good player, right?
Yeah.
No matter
Look,
what,
he's still
and
an
whether
elite level
it's with
point
the
guard.
Sixers, whether it's with the Sixers or someone else, we know he's not going to get that 4-year, $20 million contract. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if a team takes a chance on him and say, "Look, come on in, we'll work something out, see what happens." But Daryl Morey's not. He was very smart and he did his homework. So
Yeah.
people are beating him up, and I'm like, nah, dude. He's in control of this big time.
So James,
who thinks Tobias is going to be here at the start of the season?
I do.
I don't.
I don't think so either.
I honestly, the way that there's a bit of a pander between him and Morey right now, I feel like there's a mutual understanding, and this kind of goes into something that is also being well talked about, and kind of also beaten up a little bit there with Morey. Maxey is not going to be extended this summer, and everyone's like, "Oh my God!" And I said this to everyone on this show 3 months ago. He's not going to be extended this summer. Why? Because you have to clear the books with money, and you could literally, well, you're not going to hand him all of Tobias's money, but you're going to hand him a good portion of Tobias's money. Like he knows that. Like it's the Jalen Hurts thing. He knows he's getting signed. He knows he's not going anywhere. Like there's a given understanding.
It's a handshake. It's a handshake.
For everyone, right? For everyone to be like panicking, oh my God, we're not doing this, and this is why I feel like Tobias is going to either, if I think with both Tobias and James, and their potential trade partners, I agree with Dame in a very well sought out point in the sense that, okay, they're still talented players, Tobias and James. They still bring something to the table. If you ride this out with this year, you're going to get $80 million under the cap. 30, 40 of that is going to go to Maxey. Okay, but that still means you can get a max guy and on a better free agent class than you had this year. So Morey's got more foresight than just short-term fix. Now, everyone might say, well,
the only problem with it is that
I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Yeah, Embiid's window is disappearing.
Yeah, I know.
Listen, you know what? I've had enough with the windows. I've had enough with the windows because every year, 3 years ago, it was 3 years. Listen, you're entitled to think what you want. I don't. I told that to Kevin Cooney. I was like, I don't do all that.
See, here's the thing, and I said this, Dame, and I'll continue to say.
We don't know.
Well, here's the thing. I'm done with. I'm with you on the whole windows closing. I've heard that for the last 3 years from so many different people, and I'm like, okay, when's the window going to close? Because it's continuing to closing. This thing's got like rust on it at this point.
Rust and rain and pouring rain.
Seriously. and then the second thing that I've been saying, and I continue to say, is that the ownership and management for the Sixers knows that this team is transitioning to Maxey's team. So as much as we want to say Embiid's window is closing, Maxey's window's wide the freak open. Yeah, and so there has to be this transition. And I'm not saying let's throw away Embiid. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is there has to be a handoff. There has to be the baton handing to Maxey. And if that takes 3 years or 2 years with that window, that rusty window closing of Embiid's, fine. But you have to transition smoothly with Maxey. And I think Morey's kind of setting the table for that. Because I don't think if he goes to that free agent class next year, I don't think he's going to sign a 30-year-old or 32. And you know what, Frank? I thought about you a lot this week, and because there have been rumors of swirling about that blonde at the end of the bar.
Stop it! Stop it! You're just getting yourself all
excited. Frank, she's been licking her lips at me. She's been looking at me.
She's not looking
up
at you.
And down.
Yeah,
she's
but not. She ain't leaving with you, man.
You don't know that. I'm just
saying. You ain't even getting her. You ain't even getting her hot brunette wingman.
Damn. Okay.
Jesus.
Moving along with my loser ass self at a bar. So, ladies, I'm married, by the way. So, hands off, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah.
But Damon
that
Lillard
was metaphorical. Come on, you know that.
No, I know, but here's a thought that I had though. So Damon Lillard wants to go to Miami. Is there a chance? Hang on. Is there a chance for a 3-team deal? Because we talked about this in regards to James Harden too. Damon brought this up earlier a couple weeks ago about if there's going to be a significant deal done for James Harden to be a 3-team deal. Would there be a 3-team deal that would send Damon Lillard to the Heat, send James Harden to the Trailblazers, and bring home Jimmy Buckets to the Philadelphia 76ers?
Oh, no.
Does anybody see that happening?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what. If that happened, Dame Lillard would be bitter because he wants to be he wants to be in Miami with Jimmy. Okay, and that's not going to happen. I mean, Miami doesn't have enough to give Portland what they want. We don't have enough to give Portland what they want. Portland's not going to trade him away for a bag of donuts. They got him under contract. He's not going anywhere. Right. And then there was that tweet yesterday. That if he gets traded anywhere else, he's just not going to show up. Well, that's stupid because he's pissing away $150 million. You know, that's just not true. That's just you know, I'm going to, you know, stand here and beat my chest until I have to cash a check. You know, you know. So he's look. If Dame Lillard's, if the Sixers wind up with Dame Lillard, we will not have Maxey and we will not have Tobias. It's the only thing that's going to get it done.
I know. And so I have to ask myself: is that blonde really worth it, or is she going to leave without? You know,
she can't cook.
She can't cook. She can't.
Hey, Dame, no offense, you ain't taking her for her cooking, man. I mean, you order out afterwards. She ain't cooking.
I like to eat afterwards. You get my drift?
Yeah, but she's high maintenance. Yeah. You got it, man. You got to go to Steak 46 with that one, man. You ain't, you know.
So, speaking of money and dumping money and getting rid of dead weight. Sorry, James Harden. But the Philadelphia Flyers have been dumping some dead weight. And, you know, I think that some of the moves that the Flyers have made have made a ton of sense. And it's not necessarily like you had predicted, Frank, where it's the whole, I think you said it was like The Godfather, where he basically makes a list and says, okay, get rid of these people. And then we can clean house and we can start afresh.
Well, I don't. Yet.
Right, but I don't think it was like a list where they like massively exiled everybody. But between Kevin Hayes and
the front
overall,
office, I was only talking about the front office.
Right,
I wasn't talking about the players. I was talking. No, they needed to clean house in the front office.
Right.
So that's what I was talking
about. The players' salaries need to go. The players that are not going to contribute need to go. So you have Ivan Provorov that's gone, Kevin Hayes that's gone, and a guy I know is like James's favorite player on the Flyers, James Van Riemsdyk, is now gone.
Sure, yeah.
So so the departures of some of these big contracts, and
For the
then
second time.
right, and then the acquisition of Jordan Stahl,
Love it.
36-year-old defenseman. Um, James, I'll start with
Mark
you.
Stahl, yeah.
But Mark Stahl, I'm sorry. Some of the moves that have been made, and I'll add one more, which is very interesting. I heard this the other day. Mike Knubel's son, Cole Knubel, is now a Philadelphia Flyer.
Yep.
And that is a very interesting pickup, because if he's anything like his daddy, he's going to put people on their ass, and I kind of like that.
I do
James,
too.
with some of the moves that you've seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks by the Flyers, where's your heart at? Where's your passion at with the Flyers right now?
Yeah, it's interesting, Joe, because like you look down on it. It's the one thing I like about this is that they're not bringing in all ex Flyers. I mean, obviously, you brought in Leclerc, you brought in like Keith Jones, Danny Briere, X, Y, and Z, but really they actually brought in Danny Heagley. I haven't heard his name in like 15 years. This is going back to like the Atlanta Thrasher days and during the Ottawa Senator days. And I mean, just seeing him come back in the fold, but there's a couple players that really stuck out to me that they got in the draft, and I guess they're kind of like Danny Brier's having the same approach like with like Howie Roseman had with the Georgia Bulldogs. Like he's getting the players from the London Knights. Like he brought in he drafted Oliver Bunk, and I just saw a player that they got from the London Knights. Like he was like one of their top scorers last year, and the Flyers drafted it. I'm thinking, they might be up to something. They might be in a couple of years. This rebuild might not take like 10 years, like the tanking years of the Sixers. Because, excuse me, the one thing I do like about what Danny Briere is doing is that like they might be rebuilding, but this rebuilding might not take as long as we all thought it was going to be.
No, I don't think it will, and I think what they're doing is they're timing it right.
Yeah.
The reason they took the Russian kid is because they knew they weren't going to have him for at least 3 years.
Right.
So they're drafting kids that have really. I mean, I've read the draft reports on their kids, and they have a lot of upside potential. There's some guys that they have in the minor leagues that they drafted in the last 2 years who have upside potential.
Right.
And they're all going to hit. They're all going to hit the team within 3 years, which means they're going to have a very, very young team in 3 years, and they're going to have a good team in 3 years, which kind of tells me that they're still going to trade. They're still going to trade Hart.
Well,
because he's going to be too old for that.
And here's the thing: is I feel like that could be a prospect, but there's something that Danny Briere said in an interview this week that I told you I've been grading these guys as it goes along. I'm not failing them. I'm not passing them. I'm listening to what they're doing and being critical about the decisions they make. But there was something that Danny Briere said this week that really caught my eye, and he said, "We're not tanking." I don't want those words that come across anybody's mouth about regards to the Flyers. The reason why they got Mark Stahl was because for that 1-year deal is because they want to bring in talented guys to not just be there to win. Like, you're not there. You're there to win, but you're not there to just stand there and collect a check.
Right.
One of the things that the key attributes that they're going to do, and I think you're going to see this with Danny, is he's going to bring in veterans that aren't just going to bring in talent. They're going to bring in experience and skill set and be able to teach. Now, I'm going to bring this, full circle for all of you. Imagine if you were a 18, 19, 20-year-old player that's just starting out in the National Hockey League, and you had a guy like Jeremy Roenick in his late 30s, or a Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux or Jaromir Jagr in their late or end of their career, that's teaching you how to be a better player. Explain it, like, as a general manager, I don't care like how far you feel like you have to pay certain veterans, that pays dividends in the end.
Correct.
Because if you can get these guys to learn from these guys that have been around the block, that can, and all these kids have to do is be sponges. I go back to Maxi and like Harden. Maxi's just been a sponge. And that's kind of been the difference for me with the Flyers, this young crew, and Frank, like you said, 3 years. So these
Yeah.
kids aren't going to college, but they're going to Flyers University. They
Yeah,
are going to learn the game from these players that are coming in, and I love.
Well, I'll say this, Joe, that for the first time in a long time, you can look at the Flyers and go, okay, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, there's hope.
There's something there. There's something there to be hopeful for. There's no way in the world that coach is going to tank games.
Thinking about them possible.
Go ahead. I can't hear you. You
What's
lost
up?
I said, what you guys think of them possibly making the playoffs this year?
No,
I think it's going to be a rebuilding year.
no, they won't. They're not.
Maybe next year.
They don't have the offensive guys.
I mean,
They don't
Torch
have the
doesn't
offense
believe
to
that.
do it. Well, Torch. Look, Torch is going to play
doesn't
every
believe
game
it.
like it's the last game of the season. That's just the way he is.
There you
Yes,
go.
good.
But what he's here to do is build that culture. That he's here to build that no quit culture especially with young kids. They don't have the talent to make the playoffs this year. They just don't.
I'll say this,
offensively.
Dame. I'll say this, Dame. They may not make the playoffs, but they're not going to be in last place either. Like I can promise you that. They're going to wind up.
Noise. They're going to wind up like right around where they are this year, with like the 5th pick or the 6th pick, something like that. It's another deep draft, though. The draft that's coming is another deep draft.
Yeah.
So they may wind up with another good kid.
Well, I also heard, and like you, Frank, I did some deep dives with some of these guys that we drafted. So the guy the Russian that we drafted for next year's draft, 3 of his teammates are coming out in that draft. Would not surprise me very much if the Flyers had their eyes on.
Yeah, they drafted a buddy. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if they drafted a buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
make our own little Detroit Russian line. That'd be good.
Yeah, the Russian 5 2.0. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Sergei Fedorov-esque.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing, and I'm glad you brought up Danny Heatley, James, because first thing I thought when I heard about that, I'm like, well, I guess Rick Tockett's not allowed back in the building because him and Heatley did not like each other at all.
I never knew that.
He's allowed in the building, but he has to buy his beer. He can't get them for free.
Oh, yeah. Because him and Heatley had one of the most ferocious fights I've ever seen. Heatley and Tocchet both were bleeding profusely after the fight. They had to pause the game to clean the ice off of the blood.
Yeah, they had to scrape it up. Yeah, they had to scrape the crimson up.
You remember that, Frank?
I do.
You remember that, Frank?
I do. I know I'm a hockey encyclopedia, but I don't remember that.
No. Well, you know what? You know why I remember? Because
what year was that?
It was in early 2000s or in late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 99, maybe 2000. But that's one of those fights that makes the highlight films.
Yeah, I can't remember.
YouTube and look it up. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I was like, okay. So as soon as I heard Heatley was in the building, I'm like, well, I guess Fridge isn't allowed back in the building now. I think.
Well, no, they leave that stuff on the ice, Joe. They leave that stuff on the ice.
Yeah, that's why I think
those guys. Yeah. Those guys beat the crap out of each other on the ice, and they're drinking Molson's.
I don't know. Larry Bow was still.
Larry
Bow. I don't know, man. Bow still has a grudge against Davey Lopes. Still has a grudge
Yeah, but
against
Davey Lopes didn't play. Davey Lopes was the Dodger. He hated the Dodgers.
Yeah,
just
but
like
when he became the first base coach for the Phillies, I was always scratching my head like, how did that happen? I like Davey Lopes.
I don't see Tockett.
But when
I don't see Tockett as a grudge holder. He ain't Bo in that respect. Bo probably holds a grudge against. Bo probably still holds a grudge against his kindergarten teacher for making him sleep early. Making him take a nap early.
All I can say is
that's what was great. That's what was great about Bo. You always knew where he stood. Bo's heart was always on his sleeve. He was.
See, I don't
just that kind of guy.
I don't know Tockett like that, but I always kind of knew Tockett.
I know he got caught up in a gambling scandal.
He's got a little bit of couple
he got a little trouble. Got a little bit of trouble.
He got caught up in a gambling scandal. You know about it.
It's a little trouble.
Points there, James.
Dame, you ain't cool.
Well,
in
it was
sports,
more than a little trouble.
Don't get caught up in a gambling scandal.
Yeah.
Ask Calvin Ridley.
I think he's
not just him, but countless others along the way.
Allegedly, let me say this.
Allegedly,
the mob was involved. Allegedly.
Ain't no allegedly about it.
Yo, Dame.
I gotta say that because I wasn't there.
I cannot confirm nor deny that because I'm in South Philly.
Oh,
I cannot confirm nor deny that.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
I'm good.
Just saying.
I'm good.
And listen, I know how you feel, brother. I know how you feel.
I'm not.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Somehow he got back into the league though.
Yeah,
he did.
Well, I mean, forgiveness is a virtue. But we're gonna transition into your Philadelphia Eagles, and
yes,
boys, we're less than a month away from preseason.
3 weeks. 3 weeks from training camp starting. 3 weeks.
Yeah. So
slow it down.
Let's get it, man.
I have heard something that entices me so much. Joe Flacco was out golfing with Ron Jaworski doing a charity event. And Joe Flacco, who is a Super Bowl champion, said that his time here in Philadelphia, he was impressed with two things. Nick Sirianni's control of the room. For a young coach, the control he had in the room was amazing. And number two, the fight and the work ethic that Jalen Hurts had. Flacco said that he has been around a lot of quarterbacks. He has never seen a quarterback as young as Jalen take to wanting to get better and better and better. It's a corny cliche, but it's true in Jalen's. Flacco is like he takes to it like duck to water, and it's just interesting because so many people from ESPN to NFL.com to CBS Sports are all putting Jalen Hurts under the at around 8 as far as best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I've seen that too, and it's funny because I frequent Twitter a lot, and there's a couple guys from Dallas that I get their posts, and the one guy put up a post last week. He says, I know this. Everybody's got the Eagles doing what they're doing. He says, but every time Jalen messes up, I'm going to be all over it. I'm going to put it up on Twitter. I said, and I just sent back to him. I said, as long as you put Dak stuff up too.
Keep it even.
His Twitter feed will be very busy if he puts up Dak stuff.
No, I think the Eagles are. Jalen Hurts is the kind of guy, at least it appears to me, that has always, even in his college career, has always been told, you might not be enough. We're going to have to pull you out. We're going to put Tua in. Well, I'm going to go to Oklahoma, and he wins the conference in Oklahoma. And every time he's been pushed, every time he's been told, you're not quite enough, you're not the best, he's shut them up. Well, I think, Dallas made their draft choices and their free agent signings with one thing specifically in mind, and that is stop the Eagles, and especially stop the Eagles' run, and that means stopping Hurts. I think he's gonna freak everybody out. He's gonna be like, "Yeah, you think I'm gonna run? I'm gonna take a step and I'm gonna throw it downfield." You know, and I mean, I think you're gonna see it. I think you're gonna see a different Jalen Hurts this year than you saw last year. And I'm gonna make a prediction for you. I'm gonna make a prediction for you. Jalen Hurts doesn't break 500 rushing yards this year.
Wow.
And not because he's getting stopped. It's because he's going to get those 500 yards passing.
Nice.
Okay. So
that's what I think is going to happen.
Nice.
So Frank, I hope you're sitting down because you may need to.
Right.
So one of the things I would agree with you with. I am rescinding my prediction.
Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
I am rescinding my prediction about the Dallas Cowboys winning the division. I am rescinding the trend setting or the breaking the trend of a new division winner every other year or every year. I think we are going back to a time in Philadelphia Eagles lore where we're going to run the division. I also feel like we're going to run. I also feel like we're going to run the conference.
Yeah,
we're going
I believe
to
that
be.
too.
We're going to be the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFC.
Well,
I also feel, as Frank does, I have a prediction. Drew Brees, once upon a time, set the record for the most passing yards in a season.
Let's not get crazy now.
I foresee Jalen Hurts breaking that record this season.
Wow.
Wow. That's a big number, dude.
That's a bold statement there, dude.
That's a big number. That's a big number. I'll be happy. I'll be happy if he gets 4,000 yards. I'll be really happy with 4,000 yards.
I'm going to wait closer to the season, but I'm about to sign up with Joey. The reason why, Frank started off by talking about when people said he couldn't, right?
Yeah, he can't. Yeah.
So then I think about I think about what you said, the conversation that he and Kelsey had.
Yeah.
Like losing that Super Bowl is eating him up. I know it is.
Oh my God, it's driving him nuts.
So what he's doing is he's in the lab and he's realizing, one, I don't have to do it all by myself. Not that he tried to do it all by himself last year. He took what they gave him.
Right.
But now even more with the weapons that's presented to him or around him, if you will. And then moving forward, he has those running backs. To Frank's point, he doesn't have to rush as much. But I agree with Joey. He's going to put that into the passing game.
And you guys know that I don't make that prediction without something tangible to back it up with.
Yeah,
so
no, I agree.
Why I made that prediction because Ian Rappaport this week. Now he's not Ben Simmons, so let's get that right out the gate. He's not Ben Simmons, okay? But Ian Rappaport put out a tweet the other week or last week about Jalen Hurts and what he's been doing in the offseason. Now, Jalen's been training. He's been training with his quarterback coach, Brad Johnson or something Johnson.
Right. Also his offensive coordinator now.
So, yeah, his offensive coordinator. But he's also working with a trainer that works with strength and conditioning. Mm-hmm. This strength and conditioning coach or trainer that he's working with is the same guy that he worked with about a year ago that also worked with Joe Burrow. So Ian Rappaport reported that out of 10 throws with that Jalen threw for 50+ yards, he completed 8 of them.
Shit.
Jesus,
that's a scary thought. If he comes out in the first 3 games and completes 3 or 4 50-yard passes like throwing pillows, the rest of the league's just gonna go, what the hell?
Like, what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean.
So the reason why I jumped to that Drew Brees, I'm like, well, if he's throwing 50-yard bombs just like whenever the hell he wants, that's going to make up that clip really quickly,
Yeah,
especially in 17 games.
The good thing about the Eagles' offense is he doesn't have to throw 50-yard bombs to get those
Oh,
yards.
I know.
You know,
But if he wants to,
he's got excellent route runners. He's got
hey,
the
Frank,
best offensive line in football.
if he wants to, I ain't going to stop him.
No,
If he wants to, it's his world.
So this makes me think about what Joey and Ian Rappaport are saying even more. Actually, Frank touched upon it last week, and I'm going to tie it all in. Because they're going to have a spy every game on him.
Every game.
But, and he's aware of it, Johnson's aware of it, and Sirianni's aware of it. But he's also now, it's like I got through my first year with A.J. Brown. I got through my second year with Devontae Smith. We're going to get another receiver. We still have Dallas Goedert and then Swift and the other guys in the backfield. Now it's just like magic with Kareem or magic with Worthy. I know where you're going to be here. I know where you're going to be here. I know where you're going to be here. So now I can play with that spy. Oh, I think I'm going to run. Nah. Uh-oh. There goes Goddard. Bam. Oh, down. Devontae's open. Bam.
Yeah.
So it's going to be scary for teams, man, to see what they could do, because just when they think he's going to run, he's going to bang him with that pass. To your point, Joe, Ian Rappaport, they're working on that. They're working on making it less of him running and only needing it when we have to, but also really wanting him to get the ball out. We know he can get the ball out of his hands. I think it's going to come out even faster. And he's going and the beauty of it, the first time in his career, this will be his third year in the same offense. My God, I can't wait to see that.
And you want to hear something else that'll blow you away?
See that.
Did anybody see Ray Didinger's comments in the last week?
Yes.
Ray Didinger was asked about Nakobe Dean.
James's boy. James' eyes is wired up. Nakobe.
He was asked about Nakobe Dean and how he thinks Nakobe's going to be able to handle the green dot on the helmet. And Ray Didinger, and I mean, this ain't chopped liver when Ray says something like this. No. Ray said, there's one player that comes to mind when I see Nakobe Dean play and practice and apply himself to the game.
Trotter?
Ray Lewis.
What?
He said, now I can't, he says, I can't tell you that he's going to be a Hall of Fame player like Ray Lewis, but everything he does is Ray Lewis-esque.
I'm like a kid in a candy store right now, dude.
That's
big.
Ray Didinger. That's Ray Didinger, who's forgotten more about football than anybody in the world is ever going to know.
Wow.
And when he makes a comparison with our second-year middle linebacker and Ray Lewis, that's going to send some shockwaves through the league.
Yeah.
That's going to send some shockwaves through the league.
And I'm going to add to that, because that is a very good
He's not
point.
as big as Ray, but I mean, if he's playing like that, that's crazy.
I'm going to add to that. But before I do, if you want to get any Philadelphia Eagles tickets for the upcoming season, James, do we have a place where you could possibly purchase your tickets?
Yes, we do. It's sherrystickets.com. You could save 10% by using the promo code EOP10. Great prices, no hidden fees for sports, concert, and theater. I am going to go to see a concert tonight to a fellow buddy of mine, Mr. Tony Mecca, and his Queen tribute band. But anyways, visit our website, www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operates since 1946. And tell them that the boys over at Pattison Ave EOP. And yes, if the Eagles season comes around, use that promo code, like I said, EOP10, and tell them that we all sent you.
And let me be clear with Sherry's tickets, it's no hidden fees, nothing like that. The price you see is the price you get. But believe me when I tell you, with all the concerts coming, with Bruce Springsteen coming in August and Aerosmith coming in August, it's going to be very interesting.
Joey Joe was just at the link a couple weeks ago with Stevie Nicks.
Yep. Yeah. And don't forget, and I'm working on trying to get a guest on the show. But Premier League soccer is going to be at the end of June. I mean, end of July at the link. So maybe check out sherrystickets.com and get yourself some Premier League tickets. But to go back to a different type of football with the Eagles, the interesting comparison with Ray Lewis I raised my eyebrows a little bit too, Frank. Not only because that's a lofty comparison, but I also look at what the Ravens did when Ray Lewis was drafted. Now, I was a fan of that defense. I was a huge fan of that defense. I basically between Terrell Suggs, Peter Bolware, they had these linebacker crew that were coming in all at the same time. Does that sound vaguely familiar? Nolan Smith, N'Kobe Deem, all these guys that are young that are coming in together. And N'Kobe's going to be the guy that leads that. There's an interesting dynamic that's happening as far as a comparison to that Ravens defense that will probably go down as one of the top 10 defenses in NFL history. And now you look at the Eagles
Top
defense
five.
and you go,
Top
right.
5.
And now you go to the Eagles defense and you go, if there are a lot of parallels, could we be seeing something really great on the horizon? And that, along with the Jalen Hurts and the reports that I heard, and to kind of touch what you were saying, Dame, last offseason, Frank and Al both sat in the studio and said to me, Joe, I'm not saying Jalen's a bad quarterback. I think he's a talented guy. I just think he needs to work on his accuracy. I think he needs to throw guys open.
It wasn't last year.
I
It was
said,
the year before.
what? Right. And I said, okay, all right, Frank, you watch. I said to both you and Al, okay. And,
I was one of those. I wasn't in that, but I was one of those guys that said the same thing. He's got to get it out of his hands.
Right. And you know, he went and
He
hired a quarterback guru that helped Joe Burrows with the same problems that he had, which makes a lot of sense. It's an intelligent move. So what does he do this season? He adds another weapon to that arsenal. He's still a young gun, but he still knows he has to grow. He's not like another guy who we all jumped on that wagon and pulled it along. He's not resting on his laurels. He's saying, I need to add weapons to my arsenal. I have weapons like AJ and Devontae and Goddard and the running backs and the offensive line. I have weapons at my disposal that many teams don't have. So I have to improve, because if I don't improve, they're all going to take it as they shouldn't improve. But if I start to improve, they all will come with me. They will all follow. Yeah,
that's leadership.
And so this is what I say to that, and this is why I'm going to right now embrace the greatness of special players that we have. Jalen Hurts is special. Embiid is special. I know he hasn't gotten over the hump, but each year, Frank, he's improved. That's one thing you never have to question about him. He's going to figure it out to get better. Same with Jalen. I mean, we got Stott, we got Bone,
Bryce
Harper.
Yep.
You know, those dudes are putting in the work. The Flyers will see, you know, when those guys are up and coming. So we have to, as a fan base, we can criticize and get mad. We want the championship, we get it. But man, could you imagine being a Clippers fan? Could you imagine being I don't know, a Cowboys fan, if you will? Like, we have a guy that, here's the other thing, Joey, that I dig about him. Loaded, $271 million. Yeah. Is it going to change you a little bit? It has to, because you're now set financially for the rest of your life. But what hasn't changed is his competitiveness and his determination to get better. Like, that money has not changed that a little bit. And that's all I ask for my players, man. If you go out and show me that and keep putting that work in, eventually it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off.
I think you have two types of players when they get paid. You have the guys like Jalen that get that money and don't buy like the fancy houses and the fancy cars and just go splurge. They take that money and say, how can I invest that money in myself? How can I invest that money in me getting better? How can I invest that money into my health and development. You know, everyone can scrutinize and criticize LeBron James for a lot of things, but I give him credit for one major thing. He takes all the money that he makes and he gets
Absolutely.
like cryogenic chambers. He gets all these different like people
He ain't
that
gonna be
keep
broke.
him healthy. Right.
That's right.
So he's investing in himself. And that
Mhm.
means a lot. Not like a guy like Ben Simmons who invested in a big house that didn't have a basketball court when your profession is to play basketball.
Well, go
You're
to the
like,
candy store to
Right.
spend $2,000.
Yeah.
so
Yep.
my feeling is when you talk about a guy like Jalen, it's not just he gets that money is just him is incentive for him to invest in himself. So for Howie, he's like, okay, I just paid for you to improve yourself. Okay, that works for me. I'm good with that. I could have paid for it, but
Well, I mean
that's
that's
fine.
the gamble. That's the gamble you take with. That's the gamble you take with professional athletes. You see it happen all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they get their big contract and they rest on their laurels. They go, I got
Zion
work.
Williamson.
I got my money. You know,
Zion Williamson.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, Ben
Ben
Simmons.
Simmons. Ben
You know,
Simmons, yeah.
Ben Simmons is
Yeah.
never getting another contract in the NBA.
Not
No.
like
He's
that.
done.
Not
He's
like
done.
So
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. We all know, and we don't have to. We know the contract is bigger than Tobias's play, but we acknowledge that Tobias does show up. We acknowledge that Tobias is at least going out there giving the effort as opposed to coming to practice with a cell phone in your pocket. So
Right.
when I say that to say, yeah, some guys are overpaid, but some guys still go out there and give the effort. But I look at this kid, man. He's really, after last year. You know, you watch sports, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know Embiid's going to get off. I know Jalen's going to get off. Like, you know, LeBron's going to. Certain players, you know, they're going to get theirs, right?
Right.
And that's what I'm saying with Jalen. He's in that camp now where you don't have to question. You know what you're getting, and that's huge, man. That's huge.
That is
Yeah.
that is part of the reason why I
Yeah, it
rescinded
is.
my
That it
opinion
is.
because I looked at Jalen and I already knew, like I was already on the Jalen train. I was already like one of his biggest fans, but when I started to see some of these things come out, you start to see a good player become a great player that potentially can then become, dare I say, a legendary player. And so
Well, I'll tell you, I can
that's
lend some credence to that. I can lend some
Okay.
credence to that, and it's on Twitter. And you know, I mean, I have followers from all the teams all over the league, and I know this: the followers that I have from Washington, from New York, from Dallas, they're all talking crap about Jalen, and the reason they're talking crap about Jalen is they're scared to death. They are scared to death that everybody's going to be right about this kid because they know what it means. The Eagles are set up to win for the next 5 years. Right now, they are set up to win for the next 5 years. When the offense starts aging a little bit, this defense that they're putting together now will be hitting its stride.
down. Yep.
And it'll be a nice balance. In 3 years, they'll have the best defense in the league and one of the best offenses. And everybody else sees it, especially the teams in the division. Dallas is looking at this and they're going, damn. You know, I mean, you're right, Joe. The Eagles could run off 2-3 division titles in a row. They really could.
Yeah. I honestly think that that's why I was like, okay, I get the whole trend and everything, but do you really think they're such a weak team that they're going to take a year off this year and then strive better next year?
Injury's the only thing that's going to
Yeah.
affect that.
Yeah,
I
don't
get
see
that.
it, man.
And I literally said no because I feel like Jalen's a really good quarterback. I'm like, so then why are you trying
he
to
is.
convince yourself that that really good quarterback isn't going to utilize the toys that he's given and really put people in their place? There's a difference when you're a player that lets complacency take a control of you, and I feel like
Mhm.
Carson Wentz let that happen. But I think Jalen Hurts doesn't let complacency take control. I think he
He doesn't look
says
at it.
he sees it as this is my league that I'm going to take by force.
Well, check out what he does. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Take it by force.
So
I'm sorry.
the final point that I had is something that Frank was bringing up about how people count him out and have. And I think that leadership, that legendary status, that skill set, that growing skill set has to do with that. But you got to remember, it wasn't just in college. It was a couple months ago. Before
Yeah.
that Super Bowl, everyone said he's got no chance against Pat Mahomes. But guess what? He outplayed Patrick Mahomes.
He did.
He may have
And now-
lost
and now-
that game, but he outplayed him.
Let me go back to what you and Frank said. And so Frank said with the thing that happened to him in college, you know, I can even like I can honestly say like the thing about the black quarterback is kind of almost diminished in football because it's a plethora of black. Like when the days when Randall was, you know,
he was
before
he
Randall.
broke the ice. Randall was one of the icebreakers.
Warren Moon.
Yeah, like so those days I can honestly say are pretty much over because it's a plethora. So it's not even that; it's the fact that people doubt him, as the quarterback, and he's like,
it's a personal
really?
thing. It's a personal thing.
Exactly. So I'm going to go show you, and he wears it right,
Yeah.
and that fuels him to go. Anytime you lose a Super Bowl and you're back in the facility that night.
Yeah, looking at film. Looking at
film. You know, you're supposed to wind down. It's been a long season. You know, embrace. He's like, nah, I'm not done.
I got work to do.
As long as he maintains that,
the general manager is nursing a hangover. He's coming into the thing to clean out some of his things, and he sees his quarterback in the film room. Like, the hell's going on here?
Yo, who's down the hallway? Who's down there? You know,
Alan?
Nah, man, that's what you want in your athlete. That's for me as a fan of sports. That's all I ask.
That's all I ask. I mean, well, that's all Philadelphians ever ask. We can take losing because God knows we can take losing because God knows we've had enough of it. But what we don't take is lack of effort.
Nah.
No,
if you ain't coming to play, if you ain't coming to lay it all on the line,
then get the hell out.
Smell you out. We're gonna smell you out, and then we're gonna smoke you out. And that has happened more than one time.
Real quick, I know we're going to transition on the Kobe Dean. I love the fact that not only he was patient with their plan because he could have been like, man, I'm from Georgia. I don't want to chip. I want to play. He remained quiet, James, and did his job. And now look, they saw it. There's no way, Frank, that they will put him in that position if they didn't see what they saw in practice.
If he wasn't ready, I mean, you don't just hand out the green dot.
You know,
you got a second-year player that's going to be calling the defense.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, you don't just go, you know what? Let's take a chance. We drafted this kid high. Maybe he's good enough to do it. No. You don't put a team that has Super Bowl aspirations in the hands of a guy who they don't believe in. It just doesn't happen. So you know, the fact that they're trusting a second-year player with the green dot on his helmet for the defense, that's big news, man. That is really big news.
And he wasn't even a starter last year.
No, he wasn't.
Right.
He wasn't.
Well, speaking of teams with championship aspirations, we are changing gears to your Philadelphia Red Hot Phillies. It ain't Red October.
Lucky 13, man.
I got some details and facts to share with y'all about all that.
If you guys weren't even alive when that last streak happened, I was.
Oh, so James,
yes,
before
sir.
we get going, the Tampa Bay Rays series was interesting because Philly Sports Trips made their way down there and made their presence known.
Yeah, they did.
In Tampa Bay. Yeah. So if you want to join the next Philly Sports trip to a road series for the Phillies or road game for the Eagles, where can people go to book those packages?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to get to with the Philly sports trips. I know for sure when Eagles season comes around, the first game of the season, obviously, it will be the Patriots in New England. And also, like you said, like with the Tampa Bay trip, kind of seemed like there's a lot of Philly sports trips. The Philly sports trips were in full force last night after that home run what Pat Shea had.
Yep.
So overall, I mean, the one thing that you can do is just look up their website at www.phillysportstrips.com and book a trip today and tell them that the boys over at Pattison Ave EOP and also your Philly sports teams sent you.
So, we're gonna dive in a little bit to that, to what happened last night, and,
Yep.
and I will tell you this:
Oh, I
it's
still can't get
amazing.
believe it.
It's amazing what's going on, but I'm gonna throw some stats at you guys. So Frank brought it up. They tied the longest road winning streak at 13 last night with a 2-run, two out, top of the ninth inning home run by, of all people. Don't call him Posh. Don't call him Apache. Don't call him anything but Pesci, because the guy just comes out and swung for the fence. But that 13th road victory streak hasn't happened in the Phillies since 1975. Just to give
76.
credit.
76.
75,
The
76. Yeah.
the
76.
centennial year.
I was 13 years
Yeah.
old
So,
Mhm.
so here's the thing.
with a broken leg.
The Philadelphia Phillies are closing in on the major league record for road winning streaks.
Wow.
At
17.
17. Held by, does anybody know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a guess. I'm gonna say Baltimore.
No.
No, I think it's Oakland A's.
No.
Cleveland? Was it Cleveland?
No. It was 1984. Your Detroit Tigers.
Tigers are Tigers.
Well,
Oh, okay.
The
They had a good team in
17,
84.
Rocky Anderson.
17 game win streak. And yeah, Frank, you were absolutely right. The Tigers did have a good team in 84.
did.
They won the World Series.
Yeah.
Good manager
So-
too, Sparky.
With the
Before-
guy who became a free agent that Bill Giles said, "Nah, we're not going to pay him $3 million to only play one day a week." Jack Morris.
Who's that?
Jack
Oh,
Morris.
I remember that.
So
I didn't pay for another Phillies ticket. I had season tickets, and I told my mom, "That's it. I'm done. I'm not going back," because I can't sit there and watch an owner tell me that I don't matter. So I left the Phillies. I didn't buy another season ticket, another ticket, till 2007.
wow.
Did not give them a dime of my money till 2007.
I want to touch on that, and I also want to touch on, and I'm
What,
going to throw a nickname.
Frank didn't give him any money for 2007, or you wouldn't touch him?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of
was-
people gave them
I was
money
that
until
bitter.
2007.
I couldn't resist.
No.
I don't
They weren't
think.
Not
giving
even
me
93.
money.
I think between 95 and like 2006, Phillies were pretty much like, we don't got any kind of money. But anyhow,
they were
So-
Yeah, that's
so one of
they
the
were
things
kind of
that,
obnoxious.
yeah, one of the things that I'm going to also touch on as far as statistics, is Mr. Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah.
Now,
What a signing.
I am going to I don't always do this, but I'm going to do it this time. So he's on pace to do what another closer that used to play for the Phillies did a couple years ago, Mr. Lights Out Lidge. And
Yes, sir.
43 of 43, I believe it was.
Yeah.
48 for 48.
48. 43 of 43 was the regular season. I always get that.
That's
mixed
what
up.
it was, yeah.
So Craig Kimbrell's on that thing, and I'm going to give you a nickname, Mr. Kimbrell. You're now considered Craig Kill Switch Kimbrell
There you
because
go.
you flipped the kill switch of the opposing team's offense when you step on that mound. You turn the lights out on whatever offense is sitting in front of you. Mr. Kill Switch, welcome to the party. That I am so jacked about this team. Not now. Look, I'm not the casual fan. I understand they lost the National Series and then they swept the best team in the American League. I get that, but let me be clear about what I'm saying. I said in the beginning, I mean, Frank might be out on them as far as the World Series. I am not out on them for anything. In playoffs, World Series, nothing. But now, Dame, I will tell you something. You know that whole me answering the phone call for Aaron Nola?
Yeah.
I'm not picking up the phone.
Well, you can't
I'm not.
after the word that came down yesterday, and we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Here's
So-
what I'm looking at. Pache. Let's start with Pache.
Yeah.
They picked him up from Oakland. He was batting 128, James. Everyone was like, what is Dombrowski doing? And I give this guy credit because he saw something in the kid, made the trade for him, know what we have in our batting coach. And this kid, when he hit that pitch yesterday, he knew it was good. Now I'm pissed at myself. I'm watching the game, but because I got sports ADHD, whatever, I'm watching NBA summer league because I wanted to watch
With Vinyama.
Indiana, yeah. I see JT hit the homer. Hoffman gets in there, does his thing. I turned away. I come back, and I'm like, yo, I missed it live. I was so ticked off. I see the replay when he hits a 2-run homer, but I had just switched the channel like that. But, man, I'm going to tell you, man, I'm sitting there watching when they were down 3-zip. I'm like, Dad, this is going to be the end of the streak. Like I said, JT hits the homer. Shout out to the bullpen, Hoffman and those dudes. Sanchez, those guys were phenomenal yesterday. And, you know, Pache comes up and puts him over. And Wheeler didn't have his best game yesterday. However, kudos to the team because they lifted him. Now, as Bo has said, he kind of wishes, he knows guys need a break, but he kind of wishes that the All-Star game wasn't coming up because they're on a roll. So let's see what happens.
So, Frank, what do you think? Where do you think your head is with this team so far?
Well, before yesterday's game, they had the same exact record as the 1980 Phillies, the 08 Phillies, and last year's Phillies at the same point in the season.
Wow.
You know, the same exact record. They can't catch Atlanta. They don't have to catch Atlanta, but they're going to wind up. They're going to wind up with the number one wild card seed, which means they're going to have a home field in the first round of playoffs, which is awesome because you know, those two teams at the bottom will have to do like we did, go play on the road for 2 weeks before they get home.
Right.
You know, that being said, I don't necessarily know that's a good thing for the Phillies because they kind of win on the road and their home record's not as great. But but I'll tell you this. They're getting contributions from everybody, which is what happened last year. It's not just, I mean, you know that Harper's got a power problem right now. He can't hit the ball long, and that has to do with his surgery. They definitely miss Hoskins. They missed his bat in the lineup. They still do. Maybe Derek Hall can fill that in a little bit. Their pitching, their bullpen has gone 23 straight innings without surrendering a run. Now you got to think about that. The bullpen has not.
I got to let that marinate a little. The
bullpen has not given up a run since June 11th.
Wow.
June 11th was the last run that the bullpen gave up.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Okay. This is why they're back.
And remember
in the race.
that's
and this is why they're now on. Remember 4 weeks ago they were on a 70-game win pace, and then 2 weeks ago I said they were on an 86-game win pace. Well, guess what? They're now on a 91-game win pace. They've turned it around. They have absolutely turned it around. The only problem is Atlanta has won 22 of 25 in front of them.
Yeah. And
I mean,
I messaged Bill Furman. Bill Furman said this on our group text earlier this morning, and I said, you know, and I'll pose this to you guys. It has to even out at some point, right? Like
it does.
You know.
Well, they have so many good players; they're never going to have long losing streaks.
No, I get that, but I'm not expecting a 10-game losing streak. But I mean, it has to even out at some point. Like the playing field has to kind of level out at some point. and I don't wish injury on anybody, and I don't wish discontent for any team, but at the same time, like I don't know, like James, what do you think about what the Phillies are doing so far?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing because the one thing I really do enjoy the most, aside from the fact that it's great baseball and they play until the 27th out and all that, like a buddy of mine says, but the one thing I really do love about this team is that, like, the bullpen we were worried about early on, we were worried about the hitting, we were worried about the fielding, and now I think like this is the perfect time to come around and show what you are before the All Star break. And now when you get ready for that run, I think now it will be a better chance for them to become a like okay now after the All Star break, that's when you make your run. And if they continue to make this happen, if they continue to play the way they can, could be another scary team. But this time, they know what it takes to get to the World Series. This time, it'd probably be like, I want to win it now.
Right.
Yeah, and
Well,
I mean,
I think that the difference on this run is last year they had 3 solid starters.
Yeah.
This year they have 4 solid starters.
Right.
Now they were counting on Painter coming back. Well, that's done. That ain't happening now.
Yeah.
You're not going to see Painter for almost 2 years.
That's when we get to that. So to think about that, the other thing that, and Frank alluded to it, think about this. I know their home run numbers are down for obvious reasons.
Way down.
Because one guy is playing, but one guy is out, and you're still finding a way to win. Joey, let me ask you, and I know you have a question for us. If in fact Reese is able to come back for the playoff run, do you put him on the roster?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I put him on the roster. I don't put him in the starting lineup.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. Well,
I think
he's going to do a rehab assignment. You're going to see whether he can play in the rehab assignment.
Okay.
I think if we've learned anything about putting in somebody that is just coming back into a team that's got kind of gelling, you don't want to disrupt too much. And I feel like if you had Rhys Hoskins in the playoffs as a good, pinch hitter, that's a really good pinch hitter, especially if he takes really good at bats and starts to kind of establish things.
I wouldn't do it.
But
and I know
to answer,
you wouldn't do it.
So
no, and I know I raised the question. Guys, I like. You know why I wouldn't do it?
Why?
Because I know Reese. Reese is going to try so hard. I don't want him to get hurt again.
Yeah, but
I'm just no, Frank. I'm saying knowing Reese, he's going to be. I'm like, I just want to win. I want to help every. And that will be my fear. I could be wrong, even though I raised the question. But that will be my fear.
Well, here's why I know you're wrong, Dane, because this is a contract year for Reese, and he knows now that he's not going to get the contract this year that he wants, so he's got to play a year. He's going to sign a 1-year deal with the Phillies. He's going to wind up signing a 1-year deal with them. And
forgot about that.
And he's going to have to play himself back into big money contention, and to do that, he's going to have to play hard, and he's not going to come back until he's ready.
No, it's been talked about. Now, I got a feeling, what is this, July? We're going to hear about it again in August. And then as they get closer, you know how it goes, Frank.
Yeah.
There's a possibility we might try to give him a rehab stint.
Well, I don't think he's going to push like that.
Okay.
So
ligament injuries. There's only one person in the world who ever came back from a ligament injury fast, and that was Adrian Peterson. I still don't know how he gained 2,000 yards after tearing a ligament.
Yeah, I don't either. That still puzzles me. But one of the things that I kind of I guess we're all kind of talking about with Painter. Painter had one rehab start a couple weeks ago. Had some soreness in the elbow. They gave him a couple like a week or two off, and they fired him back up again for a bullpen session with 30 pitches, and his elbow was sore again. So they said they are sending him to renowned doctor James Andrews, which I think we all know what that kind of means, and that kind of means Tommy John surgery. And it's
Yep.
unfortunate because the kid is young, and the kid's got a bright future ahead of him. But the one thing to kind of that's been kind of asked, because with Painter, with the possibility of Painter coming back this season, that kind of put Aaron Nola on the chopping block.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure now that you put him on the chopping block, just because number one, he's starting to turn it around,
He
and,
is.
and you know what? I kind of blame me and Frank. We put our foot in it when we basically said Aaron doesn't have it anymore. And now he's just shutting the both of us up. And that's fine. I'm good with that. But the thing that I don't want to do is lose a guy like Aaron Nola for a pitcher like a talent like a Kyle Gibson. Like I don't want to go backwards just for the sake of
Uh,
trying to go forward.
and
Um,
I don't think. I think Joey. One, here's a couple things this happened. One, to your point, he's pitching better. He worked his way out of a few situations. The confidence is back. Sanchez, right, stepped up.
Yeah.
So now you have a legitimate five. You have a legitimate you have a legitimate starting five of pitchers. Well, even your top three, either one of them can be aces. At this point, it doesn't even matter because they're all pitching well. So when you look at it, if you remove Aaron, now you got to find somebody to fit that rhythm of what you have. So at this point, play it out. We'll go back to the negotiating tables again and figure all that out later. But right now, it's in the best interest for the team. And like you said, Joey, I'm hanging up the phone. I'm good, guys. Everything's going to voicemail. I'm not listening.
Well, Nola's guys cut off at the end at spring training. Said if we don't get it done now, we're not talking till the end of the season anyway.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But as far as like what Joey and I were saying, the other teams calling, I can't listen to them.
They can't call. No. Nobody can talk. That's no, you can't do that. Until he's a free agent,
we know we're
can't
hypothetical, but I'm saying like it's just like it's not worth trading him because you're going to need him because Painter's out. Painter's out.
Yeah, the only way you trade him is to get another pitcher in return, and that's not going to happen. You're not going to get value.
Well, and the value. The value of the pitcher that you could get for him, because you're not going to get the equal value. So the fear that I have is if you trade an Aaron Nola for like a Kyle Gibson kind of guy, and that's just not good enough for me. And especially the only way, if we're trying to make the run.
The only deal I would make is because the Angels they're gonna do this before the end of the trade deadline. They're gonna trade Ohtani.
He's got 33 homers already. Is that right?
Yeah.
No,
he's not pitching in the All-Star game anymore.
No.
He's just batting.
Dame, he did something that nobody's done since 1880 last week. He had 2 home runs in a game. He was on base every time when he was batting, and he had 10 strikeouts in a game. That hasn't happened since 1880. He's a once in 100-year player.
Exactly.
Can I just look? I know I brought this up before, and I know you guys threw it down, and I get it. But baseball, you can have whatever. There's no salary cap really. I mean, there's a luxury tax, but there's no salary cap. If you have a potential to get the best player, not in the country, not in the league, in the world, in Shohei Ohtani, you'd be a fool as an organization to not put your hat in the ring, even if you may not have a chance in the
you know what it's going to cost. You know what it's talking.
Right. It's going to cost that much. And here's the other thing. I get
$500 million.
And I don't know if Frank
cares? He's the best player in the world.
But here's what I'm looking at, Joe. I don't know if Frank or James agree with me on this. It's bigger than baseball right now.
Oh yeah.
Let me say this: if I'm an Angels fan, I'm pissed off. Mike Trout just gets hurt again, right?
Yeah.
You have one of the best, if not one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Maybe one playoff appearance, if I can recall.
Yeah.
You have a player in Ohtani who's like no one's seen before since Babe. I couldn't tell you. I've never seen Babe Ruth play, but I know they had to put him in the outfield because
I ain't
they didn't
that
want
old.
to pitch anymore.
I ain't that old.
So here's what I'm saying, Joe. In the world of baseball, Frank knows this. It's already set for him to go to either New York or LA.
Yeah.
It's nothing against Philly. It's the way the market is established.
Yeah, it's where the
And
money.
I could be wrong, but I just watched enough with sports.
Well,
it's a better. I'm not saying we're not marketable because we are. We have legends. We have legends that come through this city, but it's something about those two cities in sports. It's just like, oh,
Dame, I can tell you for.
You know what I'm saying, Frank?
I'm 99% sure.
Well,
that Ohtani's going to be with the Dodgers.
I heard another. I heard another
or New
team.
York.
I heard another team.
He doesn't want to play on the East Coast.
I heard Seattle. And I heard that Ichiro is trying to recruit him to Seattle.
Now, see, that would happen, but I mean, I could see that happening.
But again,
it's more likely he goes to the Dodgers.
But see, here's my point, though. And I get it, the whole he doesn't want to play on the East Coast and the New York and the LA thing, but he's the best player in the world. You'd be a foolish owner not to throw your hat in the ring, even if you didn't have much of a chance.
I fully expect the Phillies to make a bid for him. I fully expect that, but as soon as he sits down at the table and he goes, well, we started $500 million, which is $83 million a year.
I heard $600 million.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy money.
$600 million.
Well, you know what? To use what's his name's words against him, it's gonna be stupid money.
Yeah. And that's just for baseball. We're not even talking because once he hits those markets, Joe, now you're talking advertising. Out of all the sports, I was watching the NHL playoffs. Like, baseball is a weird sport in terms of promoting its players. Like, NHL even try to promote its players. We know the NBA does it. We know NFL does it.
Baseball doesn't do it.
They just won't do
it. It used to.
Frank, and it stopped. There was a time they did. Frank, you remember the Reggie Bar?
Yeah.
The Reggie Bar.
Well, not even. I'm not even going to go. I'm not even going there. I'm going back, even when I was younger. Cal Ripken and Nolan Ryan on the Wheaties bottle. Wheaties bottle.
Selling milk.
Yeah.
Cal Ripken was a milk guy. So was Mike Schmidt.
Dude, I had Bo Jackson's Nikes. Those ones he wore on the baseball field.
Yeah.
They were and Ken
Griffey
I can
tell you why baseball doesn't do it.
I don't understand why.
I can tell you why.
Hold on, and on the back and on my Frosted Flakes, I knew who Carl Yastrzemski was in my man from the Angels. You had to reflect the cards in the cereal box. They used to do a great promotion when I was a kid, man.
Yeah, now I can tell you why. They don't do it, Dame. Because there is no salary cap in baseball. If you blow a player up, if you blow his PR up, that's going to cost you at the free agent table. That's why they don't do it. They don't do it because it's a dollars thing. It's a money thing. They know that if they promote this guy can come back and say, you're making me the face of the league. If I'm the face of the league, then I'm worth X amount of dollars. And that's why they don't do it.
So you're saying if Ohtani were the face of the league, let's just forget what team he would be on. If he were to be the face of the league, he could walk to the table for whatever team and say, I'm worth $1 billion because I'm the face of the league.
You know what they're trying to avoid, and Ohtani may wind up cracking this egg. Ohtani could walk up and go, if you want me on your team, I need a royalty from all the advertising baseball gets.
Oh, shit!
That's the kind of power that Ohtani's going to have.
Wow!
He could say to Seattle, I want 5% of the team, and I want a royalty of the advertising.
Damn.
And that's why they don't promote the players.
Oh, wow!
Because it gives them so much clout when they go to the table and go, what are you telling me? I'm not worth this money? How many commercials did I run for you, and how much revenue did that generate?
Now, it's funny he says that. You know what saves the NBA from that, even though they pay those guys a lot of money?
What's that?
The sneaker deals that these guys get.
Yeah.
No, what saves the NBA is they got a hard cap.
No, they do. But what I'm saying, Frank, I agree with you. But here's the thing: the payoff for those guys is their sneaker deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the
when you
sneaker deals are more than their contracts.
half the time,
Usually,
they're
yeah.
happy. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, AI is still making money off his sneakers.
Yeah, he
So
is.
so it kind of offsets that, even though they're still making great money. We agree with that.
Yeah.
But to your point, that's quite interesting with baseball. Even if he played for the Mets, that's huge numbers for ESPN because they're going to put them on because people are going to watch the Mets before they watch the Dodgers because it's late night.
They know how the baseball agents will work. They're going, you're making me the face of the league. Guess what? You're going to pay me like the face of the league.
Dame, you talked about sneaker deals. I just had, because I've been doing work on trying to rebuild my online business, and I'm doing like different stuff with drop shipping and stuff like that. But I found that Penny Hardaway just put out a new sneaker about less than a year ago. I'm like, Penny Hardaway? There's a new Penny Hardaway shoe? I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Like these guys haven't played in 20
Tiger
years.
Woods is going to be selling. Tiger Woods is going to be selling merch for the next 30 years.
And before that, before the sneakers was big for NBA players, if you had a poster, that was huge. You always wanted a poster of a player.
Yeah.
Which is way less than a sneaker. But my point is, there was always that outside promotion that they have to help that league. I mean, football is in itself, they're fine because of the way it's structured. The game.
Well, they got a cap too. They got the hard cap too. They can't get around it. You know, so does hockey. Hockey's got a hard cap too. Baseball doesn't have a hard cap, and those owners know that those players would use it against them.
Let me ask you a question, and we'll wrap it up because this is an interesting take. I have two questions. One about what you're talking about, Frank, with the hard cap. Do you think that the baseball will ever create, even if it's a lofty one, a hard cap?
Never.
You don't think so?
No, the players will never go for it.
So
the players would walk out. That's it. We're not coming back until you can take that off the table.
Let's say one of those teams signed Ohtani for $650.
Right.
$650 million.
Right.
So now the other owners are going, where does it stop?
Well, I mean, the Mets, the guy that owns the Mets.
I think that's Joe's point, and my point.
Yeah, I know, but see, what stops them is the luxury tax. You know, I mean, the Mets could come up with that. The Mets would pay him $600 million. They really would. But their salary the next year for what they have now and paying him that much money, that would blow them up to like 1.3 billion. Well, they're going to have to match. They're going to have to match almost $1 billion of that in royalty tax and in luxury tax. And not only that, they'll lose draft picks for like the next 4 seasons.
Yeah,
you know, and that's how they keep the teams in check. But the guy in New York doesn't care. He doesn't care. He wants the guy there because he wants the asses in the seats.
And
real quick before we go about the Mets, do you guys believe that we took 2 of their pitchers who were playing better for us? Do you think that's affecting the Mets? But go ahead. Go ahead.
I think the Mets have bigger problems than that. I mean,
I do.
But 2 of their former pitchers are now Phillies, so
usually the Mets don't start Metting until the end of July. They started it at June this year.
So, to wrap things up, so the Marlins and Phillies face off this afternoon at 3:30. Ranger Suarez on the mound. I gotta ask, not just about like this series, finishing this series and finishing the first half of the season, but what do you guys see going forward for the second half? Do you guys see this? Like the offense, the home run explosion. Do you guys see like the bullpen crumbling? The good, the bad, and the ugly. What do you see? What do you guys see happening in the second half of the season, Frank?
I don't see the home run total coming back.
No, neither do I.
But what I do see is a pitching staff that is leaps and bounds better than it was last year, especially in the bullpen. And that's going to wind up saving them. That's going to the bullpen is going to wind up doing what the home runs did last year. You know, they slugged it out with everybody last year. This year they're going to outpitch people. They're going to be just like Houston was. They could outpitch people. there's only one team in the league that can stay with one team in the NFL or the NFL in the National League that can stay with them pitching wise, and that's the Braves. You know, even the Dodgers don't have as deep a bullpen as the Phillies do right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Braves do, but it comes down to us in Atlanta, and it's the team in the American League that everybody was afraid of. Well, the Phillies just gave them a sweep, first team to sweep them this year.
I'm gonna piggyback off of Frank real quick. I agree. The home runs, as much as I want them to, Joey,
they ain't coming back.
And I'm not even gonna put the pressure on Harper because he came back before he was supposed to. I just want him to stay healthy, and hopefully he catches it in the playoffs as far as his, you know. Real quick, Tyrone from Best Show Ever brought up a good point. He said he would like to see Harper and the home run derby to help him get out of it. Sometimes it hinders guys, but he said to help them get out of it. Here's the other thing that I like, Joe, that's happening. We beat the Marlins, yes. Even though the Marlins are better this year than what they have been in the past, but they've always been a thorn in our side. So for me, winning last night, coming back in the fashion that we did, in which they did, not only gives me more confidence, but gives them confidence that, hey, we can beat this team. So if we can win this series, finishing out strong, not only do you start to catch them in the standings, but you get that monkey off the back as far as the Marlins are always beating us. So I like the direction.
I'm going to tell you something about the Marlins team. The Marlins, even though they're ahead of us, their plus-minus differential for runs going into this series was minus 22.
What?
Yes. And that just tells you that sooner or later water's going to find its level and they're going to crash.
Yeah.
You know,
James, what do you think's going to happen for the second half? What's the good, the bad, and the ugly for you?
It's more good than bad and ugly, to say the least. I think what the Phillies need to do is that, like I said in my opening statement about the Phillies, is that if they get to where they're supposed to be at the tipping point of what because this run is going to be very important for them after the All-Star break, where they stand in the division. So I think the one thing I take out of it too is that I know we're not going to see a lot of home runs, and I know we'll probably see more of a kind of like fundamental baseball more than anything, to say the least. But the last thing I would say about it too is that it kind of worries me a little bit that Trey Turner is like with the grounders, and he can't get the either. It's just like a little bit of head scratching to me, but that might be just the little bit of the bad and the ugly. But fielding's not necessarily the problem. But if they could find a way to make this happen and make this work, I mean, just you got. I mean, just getting into the no, absolutely. And if you get them into the postseason, I mean, we all know you don't have to be the best team in baseball to get in. Just get there is the most important thing.
Sometimes it's the hottest team.
Real quick though, Joe.
Absolutely.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Sometimes it's the hottest team.
It is.
It's the hottest team.
I remember in 11 when St. Louis, we should have won. We were 100.
Giants in 2010 too.
Yeah.
Howard.
And the other thing that's
Colorado in 06.
Yeah.
Yep.
LA says he's about 2 weeks away from playing first base.
Probably.
I could see that.
Larry Anderson said he's about 2 weeks away. Joey doesn't like it. Go ahead, Joe.
I don't love it because here's the thing. I think there's already a log jam, and I think Frank had brought up last week about possibly getting Goldschmidt. And I think if Harper is going to go to first, Goldschmidt's off the table. Why you're going to have two guys in that regard?
Well, they're only bringing Goldschmidt in for one reason. That's his bat.
No, I get that, but
it'll be like a Matt Stairs kind of moment.
If you move Harper to first,
definitely.
The goal, I think, for me, if you move Harper to first, is to give someone like Schwarber or Castellanos a breath in the fielder as a fielder. Yeah, and so you could put Schwarber at DH, and then that means the work that I think Dombrowski has to do before the trade deadline is get another quality outfielder that can bring another at bat. And look, with some of the cachet that Dombrowski has had with some of the outfielders he's picked up in the last 2 seasons with Pache and Marsh. In Dombrowski, I trust in that. For the
There's
good,
one
bad,
guy
and
in
the ugly.
Chicago I want.
Which
Wouldn't
one?
cost you what it would cost for Goldschmidt.
Who?
Give me that Cody Bellinger.
Bellinger, yep.
Ooh.
Give me Cody
I
Bellinger.
like Cody.
Put
Yeah, he's a good
Harper at
I-
first base.
I am not hating. I am not hating that at all.
Neither am
No.
I. No,
I would like to
hate it.
Me
Yeah,
neither.
That-
you
that's
could put
not-
you put
that's
Harper
not-
at first. Schwarber goes to DH. Bellinger goes to left field. Now he's a left-hander. That's another left-handed bat in your lineup. But I mean, it doesn't matter with Bellinger. He's a solid hitter.
That's not the blonde at the end of the bar or her brunette friend. That's the
Joe, I
sassy
got
redhead.
Joe, I got
Yeah,
I
that's
got a
the
good
redhead.
topic
It's
for
the
us for
redhead.
next week. The
It's a sexy
untouchable.
redhead, like George Carlin said.
I got a good topic for us next week. The untouchables, and Crawford's one of them. Not because when he mentioned Bellinger, Crawford came to mind, and they say he's untouchable, just like Maxey. So we should do one.
Yeah.
On the untouchables.
And I also have heard
Frank
things
likes
about
that.
about Clemens being an untouchable. Too.
Yeah, I didn't like that, but Clemens got sent back down.
He's
Yeah.
not untouchable.
But
Clemens is not untouchable. If they can make a deal for Cody Bellinger, guess what? Clemens is gone. They're going to put him in the deal.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that I would say is good, bad, and
Maybe
ugly
Josh
about
Harrison too.
especially in this second half, is the good is I kind of go opposite. I feel like the home runs are going to start cranking out. Not just for Harper, but for Turner. I also believe Stott and Baum are going to start hitting the ball out of the ballpark. I also feel like someone like a Mundo Sosa is going to start hitting the ball. It's not about hitting season. I just think, and someone brought this up. So Harper came back way early from Tommy John. And you got to look at the last month and a half or the last 6-7 weeks as like spring training / April.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Close.
he's getting into that situation where he's going to find his stride. We all know if Harper gets hot, he can reel off 8-9 home runs in a month. Easily. And so I am not completely on board that the home runs aren't going to pick up. Now, are they going to pick up where they're going to, where they were?
They're not
going to
be able to make up that difference.
No, they're not going to be able to make up the difference, but they're going to they're going to pick it up. It's going to be an uptick, and it's going to be a significant uptick. The bad and the ugly, I kind of go with what James was saying, and it's very frustrating for me. And I know what Frank feels and everything, but it's not just Schwarber, it's not just Turner. It's the idea. I mean, JT's had issues with getting the ball out of the glove. The fielding needs to get better. The fielding just needs to get better. You got to cut down these mental errors.
Guess what? It doesn't happen during the season. That has to happen in spring training.
Yeah, I agree. But
it doesn't happen during the season.
But here's the thing, Frank. You have to rectify some things, even if it's not completely, before you get to the postseason. Because if
they didn't fix the defense all last year, and it almost cost them. It almost cost them series.
Yeah.
So
that's why I worry. That's why I worry about that.
You know what this sounds like?
Season.
You know what it sounds like, Joe? It sounds like us hoping Ben Simmons gets a jump shot. That's what it sounds like. The defense ain't getting better, dude.
That ship has sailed. That ship sailed.
Yeah.
That's like having Jonathan Gannon have a spine. Yeah. Basically.
Oh, God.
And on that note, that's
more
going to wrap it up that's going to wrap it up for today's show. For James Scorza, thank you for doing producing duties. For Frank Finnegan, Damon Salim, Tom Kelly, I'm Joe Marks. We are the Pattison Ave Phanatics. Have a happy Saturday. Go Phils. And we will see you next week.
Peace and love, everyone.